Story 1. My name is Jonathan, and I'm currently 21 years old, but this story takes me back to when I was just 16. It's an experience that continues to haunt me to this very day. The chilling events I'm about to recount took place during a winter night in Colorado, a state known for its fierce snowstorms. It all began when school was unexpectedly called off early due to the impending snowstorm. Ecstatic about the unplanned break, I decided to have a sleepover at my friend Tyler's house. Luckily, he lived in the same neighborhood, making it a short 5-minute walk from my place. I packed my bag with overnight essentials, anticipating a fun-filled evening. Arriving at Tyler's house, we reveled in the joy of having the entire day to ourselves. We stayed up late, engrossed in video games and engaged in random conversations that only teenage boys would find amusing. The night proceeded without incident, seemingly normal and devoid of any eerie occurrences. However, it was the following day that turned our world upside down. Around 11 o'clock in the morning, as Tyler made a sandwich in the kitchen and I used the bathroom, the doorbell suddenly rang. The sound echoed through the house, sending a shiver down our spines. Though initially startled, we dismissed it, assuming it was a harmless visitor. Our neighborhood was considered safe, and instances of home invasions were virtually unheard of. We jokingly speculated that it might be a Jehovah's Witness at the door. However, when I rushed out of the bathroom, Tyler and I decided to investigate. As we approached the front door, a voice cried out for help, pleading urgently, "Please help me. I'm in serious trouble." Our hearts raced with a mix of fear and concern. Our peaceful neighborhood rarely experienced unexpected visitors, so this situation seemed highly unusual. Peering outside, Tyler's casual remark about a Jehovah's Witness evaporated into thin air. Instead, we saw a man dressed in shorts and a t-shirt, his short black hair contrasting with the snowy backdrop. He appeared to be around 5'10", but his presence filled us with an inexplicable sense of dread. "Who are you? What the hell is going on?" I mustered the courage to ask, my voice trembling. Tyler, clearly upset by my decision to engage the stranger, hit me on the shoulder, conveying his frustration at our newfound vulnerability. Reflecting back, I regret speaking up. Perhaps, had we remained silent, the man would have eventually left, and none of the ensuing nightmare would have unfolded. It was a lapse in judgment on my part, and I readily admit my responsibility. The man, refusing to relent, began pounding on the door, pleading desperately for us to let him in. We instinctively knew something was terribly wrong, and there was no way we could allow him entry. Fear gripped us as we sprinted downstairs, seeking refuge in a secret spot Tyler had revealed to me earlier. Tyler phoned his mom, Macy, to inform her of the situation. Her workplace was merely 5 minutes away, so she promised to return home promptly. Yet, no sooner had Tyler hung up the phone than we heard distinct footsteps coming from upstairs. We knew without a doubt that it couldn't be his mom. "Dude, what the hell are we going to do?" Tyler exclaimed, his voice quivering with anxiety. "We need to stay calm and wait it out," I suggested, trying to retain composure amidst the escalating terror. "Are you kidding me? Screw that," Tyler responded, his frustration palpable. "We can't just sit here. We need to do something." "Well, what do you propose?" I inquired, sensing the urgency in his voice. "Anything but sitting here," Tyler declared decisively. "We need to run." Unsure of the wisdom behind his plan, I refused to remain passive and followed Tyler's lead. Together, we opened the door slowly, inching our way across the basement toward a window through which we hoped to escape. Initially skeptical about the feasibility of this plan, I understood that it was our best chance of survival. I joined my hands, cupping them to create a makeshift boost for Tyler. With great effort, he managed to pry open the window, granting us an exit route. Now it was my turn. Tyler instructed me to grab the wooden coffee table opposite me, using it as a makeshift step to elevate myself. He would then pull me out once I reached the window. With no time to waste, I positioned myself, ready to execute our desperate maneuver. Summoning every ounce of strength, I propelled myself upward, while Tyler grasped my arm, exerting all his might. Miraculously, I squeezed through the narrow opening, narrowly escaping the clutches of our unseen pursuer. Gasping for air, I found myself standing outside, the cold winter breeze biting at my skin. Dazed and disoriented, I had barely collected my thoughts when I realized the man had been lurking right behind us. He stared at us, his eyes filled with a malevolence that sent shivers down my spine. His very presence exuded an indescribable creepiness that made my skin crawl. Reacting instinctively, Tyler and I sprinted towards the front of the house, coinciding with the arrival of Tyler's mom, pulling into the driveway just as we reached the end. Startled by her presence, the man quickly changed direction and fled in the opposite direction, realizing he was now in the company of adults. Tyler's mom wasted no time contacting the police, recounting the harrowing encounter and our miraculous escape. The officers arrived promptly, showing us a picture of the fugitive. Both Tyler and I identified him as the same person who had terrorized us. Later that night, the police managed to apprehend him, ensuring he would face justice and likely spend a significant amount of time behind bars. It was later revealed that the man was a convicted sex offender with a sickening penchant for assaulting young boys, particularly those of our age. He had been spying on us, fully aware that we were home alone. The realization of his sinister intentions still sickens me to the core. The incident left an indelible mark on both Tyler and me. We were lucky to have escaped unharmed, but the psychological scars lingered long after the event. It serves as a constant reminder of the darkness that can reside within some individuals, a reminder that vigilance and caution are necessary, even in seemingly safe surroundings. Story 2. When I was 14 years old, I found myself at my best friend Jared's house for an evening of fun and games. Little did I know that this innocent night would soon take a terrifying turn. With Jared's parents absent for the night, we reveled in the freedom of doing whatever we pleased. Excitement filled the air as we relocated our gaming setup to the spacious living room, relishing in the larger TV screen recently purchased by Jared's dad. The night unfolded with endless hours of Call of Duty battles, completely engrossed in the virtual world. As the hours wore on, fatigue began to creep in, and Jared suggested that I spend the night. Confusion tinged my thoughts, unsure if I was even allowed to be there. However, Jared's nonchalant shrug convinced me to go along with the plan. Eventually, our tired bodies sought the solace of slumber. Gathering blankets and pillows, we made our way upstairs to Jared's room. But sleep was elusive, and we spent a while goofing around before finally succumbing to exhaustion. Awakening abruptly from my light sleep, I became aware of faint music drifting from outside. Peering through the window, I noticed a car parked in the driveway. Assuming it to be Jared's parents, I woke him, but his response indicated otherwise. Unease settled in my stomach as we discovered the front door wide open. A shiver ran down my spine, and a sense of foreboding hung heavy in the air. With the hairs on my neck standing on end, I realized the gravity of the situation. Jared's room, located at the far end of the house, remained our sanctuary amidst the encroaching darkness. Turning to retreat to his room and retrieve our phones for help, a chilling encounter shattered our plan. As we passed by the bathroom, a menacing figure snatched Jared, sprinting away with him. The surge of fear that coursed through me in that moment was indescribable. Fueled by adrenaline and an overwhelming desire to save my friend, I pivoted on my heels, abandoning the notion of retrieving my phone. Jared fought valiantly, struggling to break free, while the stranger gained ground. As we burst outside, hurtling down the steps, I noticed a sinister-looking van parked alongside the road, its very green and tan hue sending a chill down my spine. With time running out and the stakes high, I seized a nearby shovel inadvertently left outside by Jared's father. Summoning every ounce of strength and determination, I swung the shovel with all my might, striking the intruder's leg. The impact caused both assailant and Jared to collapse to the ground. Seizing the opportunity, I helped Jared to his feet, and we hurried back into the safety of the house, the van vanishing into the night. A concerned neighbor, witnessing the commotion, had promptly dialed emergency services. Before long, the police arrived on the scene. Yet, despite their efforts, neither of the suspects could be apprehended. The lingering presence of the unknown car parked in the driveway added an unsettling layer to the already disturbing events. Speculation surrounded its purpose, with theories ranging from an accomplice with cold feet to a coincidental presence. Since that harrowing day, visiting Jared's house has been a constant reminder of the fragility of safety and the evil that can unexpectedly invade our lives. The incident left an indelible mark, forever altering our perception of the world. We became acutely aware of the importance of trust, vigilance, and the strength of friendship during times of darkness. Story 3. When I was 14 years old, I found myself at my best friend Jared's house for an evening of fun and games. Little did I know that this innocent night would soon take a terrifying turn. With Jared's parents absent for the night, we reveled in the freedom of doing whatever we pleased. Excitement filled the air as we relocated our gaming setup to the spacious living room, relishing in the larger TV screen recently purchased by Jared's dad. The night unfolded with endless hours of Call of Duty battles, completely engrossed in the virtual world. As the hours wore on, fatigue began to creep in, and Jared suggested that I spend the night. Confusion tinged my thoughts, unsure if I was even allowed to be there. However, Jared's nonchalant shrug convinced me to go along with the plan. Eventually, our tired bodies sought the solace of slumber. Gathering blankets and pillows, we made our way upstairs to Jared's room. But sleep was elusive, and we spent a while goofing around before finally succumbing to exhaustion. Awakening abruptly from my light sleep, I became aware of faint music drifting from outside. Peering through the window, I noticed a car parked in the driveway. Assuming it to be Jared's parents, I woke him, but his response indicated otherwise. Unease settled in my stomach as we discovered the front door wide open. A shiver ran down my spine, and a sense of foreboding hung heavy in the air. With the hairs on my neck standing on end, I realized the gravity of the situation. Jared's room, located at the far end of the house, remained our sanctuary amidst the encroaching darkness. Turning to retreat to his room and retrieve our phones for help, a chilling encounter shattered our plan. As we passed by the bathroom, a menacing figure snatched Jared, sprinting away with him. The surge of fear that coursed through me in that moment was indescribable. Fueled by adrenaline and an overwhelming desire to save my friend, I pivoted on my heels, abandoning the notion of retrieving my phone. In pursuit of the assailant, we raced through the living room. Jared fought valiantly, struggling to break free, while the stranger gained ground. As we burst outside, hurtling down the steps, I noticed a sinister-looking van parked alongside the road, its cherry green and tan hue sending a chill down my spine. With time running out and the stakes high, I seized a nearby shovel inadvertently left outside by Jared's father. Summoning every ounce of strength and determination, I swung the shovel with all my might, striking the intruder's leg. The impact caused both assailant and Jared to collapse to the ground. Seizing the opportunity, I helped Jared to his feet, and we hurried back into the safety of the house, the van vanishing into the night. A concerned neighbor, witnessing the commotion, had promptly dialed emergency services. Before long, the police arrived on the scene. Yet, despite their efforts, neither of the suspects could be apprehended. The lingering presence of the unknown car parked in the driveway added an unsettling layer to the already disturbing events. Speculation surrounded its purpose, with theories ranging from an accomplice with cold feet to a coincidental presence. Since that harrowing day, visiting Jared's house has been a constant reminder of the fragility of safety and the evil that can unexpectedly invade our lives. The incident left an indelible mark, forever altering our perception of the world. We became acutely aware of the importance of trust, vigilance, and the strength of friendship during times of darkness. 20 years ago, my life took a dark turn when I found myself behind bars, wrongfully accused of the disappearance of my best friend, Bennett. Despite my attempts to explain what truly happened, nobody believed me. Coerced by relentless interrogators, I caved in and confessed to their version of events. The weight of the accusations led me to plead no contest to the charges, sealing my fate in the eyes of the law. After serving my time, I find myself finally free, albeit in a world where the life I once had no longer exists. It is within this newfound freedom that I am finally capable of sharing the true story, the story of Bennett and our intertwined lives. Bennett and I grew up together, bound by a friendship that thrived in the midst of mischief and rebellion. We were no strangers to the world of crime, although our actions never escalated to robbery or murder. We came from well-off families, and our rebellious activities were more about testing boundaries and breaking rules for the thrill of it. One of our favorite pastimes was exploring abandoned buildings and construction sites, reveling in the excitement of trespassing and discovering hidden places. We had become somewhat skilled at evading capture, never having been caught in the act of our adventurous exploits. However, our luck would eventually run out. It was on a fateful night that our curiosity led us to an abandoned police station. The old building, constructed in the 1940s, had been left to decay after the police department relocated to a newer and larger facility. The remnants of the past lingered within those aged walls, creating an irresistible allure for us. Equipped with a knockoff Polaroid camera and empty backpacks to collect mementos, we embarked on our adventure. Cutting through the barbed wire fence and smashing the locks on the front door, we gained entry without any alarms sounding. A forbidden world of the old police station lay before us like a forbidden treasure trove. As we explored, our mischievous spirits soared. We rummaged through ancient records in the booking station, leaving chaos in our wake. The sheriff's office bore the brunt of our playful destruction, and we even searched the armory, hoping to find discarded weapons. To our disappointment, all we discovered were outdated billy clubs. But then, we stumbled upon the jail cells, a row of 4 cells with classic steel bars. To our astonishment, the keys to the cells hung conveniently on a hook nearby. The temptation was too great, and we couldn't resist the opportunity to play out our own cop and criminal scenario. We engaged in a game of rock, paper, scissors to determine our roles, and fate crowned me as the cop. With a mischievous grin, I locked Bennett, now playing the role of the criminal, inside one of the cells. The clanging sound of the cell door and the jingling of keys filled the air, heightening the excitement. At first, Bennett played along, pretending to be a rebellious captive, hurling insults and complaints at his captor. We reveled in the atmosphere, immersing ourselves in the roles we had assumed. However, as time passed, something changed. Bennett's playful demeanor shifted, and genuine fear crept into his voice. His cries for release grew desperate, a plea that sent shivers down my spine. I hurried to the cell, my intention to free him mingled with concern. But to my disbelief, when I reached the cell, Bennett had vanished. The door remained locked, but he was nowhere to be found. Panic gripped me as I called out his name, but there was only silence, save for the echo of my own voice bouncing off the cold, unforgiving walls. As I stood there, paralyzed by a mixture of confusion and terror, the door behind me began to slide shut with an eerie creak. Reacting swiftly, I lunged forward and managed to wedge my hand in the closing gap just in time, my wrist bearing the weight of the door's crushing force. Agonizing pain shot through my arm, but I refused to release my grip. With every ounce of strength, I fought against an unseen resistance, desperately struggling to keep the door from sealing me inside that ominous cell. It was as though an invisible entity was determined to trap me, its relentless force pushing against my feeble resistance. Finally, with a surge of adrenaline-fueled determination, I managed to free myself from the door's grip. Trembling, I stumbled backward, my heart pounding in my chest, and took a moment to catch my breath. Fear coursed through my veins as I realized the gravity of the situation. Bennett's disappearance and the inexplicable events that followed. In the days and weeks that followed, I found myself haunted by guilt and the weight of unanswered questions. The authorities launched an investigation into Bennett's vanishing, and the trail of suspicion led straight to me. Circumstantial evidence, combined with my false confession, made me the prime suspect in their eyes. The justice system seemed blind to the truth I knew deep within my soul. I was not responsible for Bennett's disappearance. As days turned into weeks and then into months, I relentlessly searched for any trace of my missing friend. I scoured the town, retracing our footsteps, questioning acquaintances, and immersing myself in every detail of that fateful night. But the more I delved into the mystery, the more elusive the truth became. Haunted by memories and plagued by sleepless nights, I began to unearth the dark history surrounding the old police station. Rumors circulated about unexplained deaths, strange occurrences, and whispered tales of restless spirits that lingered within its walls. The building had become a ghostly relic, bearing witness to a multitude of secrets and traumas. Driven by an unwavering determination to uncover the truth, I sought solace in forgotten archives, meticulously examining records and connecting the dots between past and present. It was during these solitary investigations that I encountered unsettling accounts of prisoners who had mysteriously vanished from the very same cells where I had last seen Bennett. Piecing together fragments of forgotten stories and unearthing forgotten evidence, a disturbing pattern emerged. The old police station had long been a playground for something dark and malevolent. Its walls harbored an insatiable hunger for souls, consuming the lives of those who dared to cross its threshold. My quest for answers led me deeper into the labyrinth of the unknown, where whispers of occult practices and supernatural phenomena mingled with the echoes of forgotten footsteps. I sought the guidance of local historians, paranormal investigators, and even those who claimed to possess esoteric knowledge. Each encounter peeled back another layer of the twisted tapestry that bound this unholy place. Yet, as I delved further into the darkness, I couldn't shake the feeling that something ancient and sinister was watching my every move. Shadows danced at the edge of my vision, whispers echoed in empty corridors, and a sense of foreboding hung heavy in the air. It was as if the malevolent force that had claimed Bennett was now fixated on me. Through a haze of fear and determination, I became entangled in a desperate race against time. Every step I took brought me closer to the horrifying truth, but also increased the peril that lurked around every corner. The line between reality and nightmare blurred, and I questioned my own sanity as I navigated a treacherous maze of deception, betrayal, and supernatural forces beyond my comprehension. Now, consumed by an insatiable thirst for justice and haunted by the memories of my friend's disappearance, I stand on the precipice of unveiling the sinister secrets that lie within the walls of that forsaken police station. I delve deeper into the occult and consult ancient texts. Guided by whispers and cryptic clues, I find myself drawn to a hidden chamber beneath the station, a chamber rumored to be the epicenter of the malevolent forces that hold sway over the building. Armed with ancient symbols and protective charms, I cautiously descend into the subterranean depths. The air grows colder, and a palpable sense of otherworldly energy permeates the atmosphere. Flickering candlelight casts eerie shadows on the walls adorned with occult markings. As I navigate the labyrinthine passageways, I stumble upon a hidden archive that reveals a horrifying truth. The old police station was once a site of occult rituals and human sacrifices, conducted by a cult that worshipped an ancient deity of darkness. The souls of the sacrificed prisoners were claimed by this entity, forever trapped within the confines of the building. A chilling realization dawns upon me. Bennett's disappearance was not an isolated incident. He had become another victim of the malevolent force that dwells within these cursed walls. The guilt that has weighed upon me for years begins to dissipate as the pieces of the puzzle fall into place. I was merely a pawn in a much larger, sinister game. Armed with this newfound knowledge, I embark on a perilous mission to release the trapped souls and bring closure to those who have suffered. With every step, I encounter the vengeful spirits of the past, their anguished moans and ethereal apparitions driving me forward with a renewed determination. Using ancient rituals and protective rites, I navigate the treacherous ethereal realm that intertwines with our own. I confront the malevolent deity that has held Bennett and countless others captive for decades. The battle between light and darkness ensues, each confrontation pushing the boundaries of my mortal limitations. At the climax of the harrowing struggle, I harness the energy of the spirits, drawing upon their collective strength to banish the ancient entity back to the shadows from whence it came. The walls of the old police station tremble as the curse is shattered, freeing the trapped souls and cleansing the building of its malevolence. Exhausted but triumphant, I emerge from the depths of the old police station. The weight of guilt lifted from my shoulders. Bennett's spirit, finally released from its tormented existence, reaches out to me in a final, bittersweet farewell. Though scarred by the horrors I have witnessed, I find solace in the knowledge that justice has been served and my friend can rest in peace. As I leave the haunted past behind, I dedicate my life to investigating and exposing the supernatural underbelly of the world. Armed with my experiences and a newfound purpose, I become a relentless seeker of truth, helping those plagued by unexplained phenomena and vengeful spirits, ensuring that no one suffers the same fate as Bennett. The horror story that began with my wrongful imprisonment now concludes with a tale of redemption, bravery, and the unbreakable bond of friendship. Though the scars of the past will never fully fade, I carry them as a reminder of the darkness that exists in the world and the strength needed to overcome it. And as I venture into the unknown, seeking justice for the lost and tormented, I do so with the unwavering belief that even in the darkest of nights, light will prevail. In my long and storied career as a sheriff's deputy, I have witnessed and experienced countless disturbing and traumatizing events. Now that I am retired, I have decided to chronicle the most haunting incidents that have remained etched in my memory. One particular day on the job stands out vividly in my recollection. It was a call we had been anticipating, an operation that had been months in the making. The target was an abandoned house in one of the neighborhoods we regularly patrolled. Left ownerless after the demise of its previous occupants, the property had fallen into disarray, neglected by the bank that held its mortgage. The time had come for its demolition, as it teetered on the verge of collapsing under its own weight. With a warrant finally obtained, we prepared to raid the house based on the testimony of a contractor who had conducted a pre-demolition inspection. The contractor's harrowing account had left him visibly shaken, and it fueled our anticipation of the unknown horrors we were about to confront. Our expectations were focused on the typical trappings of a drug den, illicit substances, squatters, and illegal firearms. And indeed, we were armed and ready to make arrests. As we encircled the house with a formidable contingent of 8 squad cars and a SWAT van borrowed from a neighboring county, the occupants inside remained blissfully unaware of the impending raid. Despite the broad daylight, their attention was consumed within the walls of their dwelling. While I positioned myself a few men behind the front line, the SWAT team announced our presence at the door before forcefully breaching it. In a matter of seconds, chaos ensued. With only a fleeting 15-second warning, some of the occupants on the first floor managed to scramble toward the back exit. But we had planned for such a scenario and had officers strategically positioned to intercept them. The SWAT team stormed in, their imposing presence deterring any resistance from those who remained. By the time I entered the house, about a dozen individuals lay on the ground, subdued and immobilized. However, our task was far from complete. While my comrades dealt with the arrested individuals on the first floor, I accompanied the SWAT team as we ventured deeper into the house's bowels. A basement lay hidden below, an uncharted territory shrouded in an air of apprehension. As we descended, my heart raced within my chest, the anticipation and tension suffusing the atmosphere. I felt a heightened sense of awareness, as if I could perceive every detail in a 360-degree panorama. A palpable shift in the ambience greeted us as we reached the basement's depths. The SWAT team, seasoned professionals accustomed to high-intensity raids, visibly slowed their advance, mirroring the instincts that had taken hold within me. The hair on the back of our necks stood on end, and an eerie stillness enveloped the space, punctuated only by the distant commotion from above. Then I was hit by an overwhelming stench, a putrid odor that stirred my senses. Though I recognized it all too well, I resisted acknowledging its source, refusing to confront the truth. For a moment, I pushed it aside, focusing on the task at hand. The SWAT team shouted at an escaping man attempting to flee through an egress window, but his corpulence hindered his escape. Reacting swiftly, I rushed forward, joined by my partner, and forcefully pulled him back, causing him to crash to the floor. We swiftly secured his hands and feet as protocol dictated. In the midst of this chaotic moment, a sudden eruption diverted our attention. One of the SWAT members, usually composed and disciplined, unleashed a torrent of profanities and charged at the immobilized man, seizing him by the collar. His voice trembled, betraying an emotional turmoil verging on tears. The man we had apprehended responded with a vile act, spitting blood into the SWAT member's face, smearing his visor instantly. In an instant, fueled by anger and frustration, the SWAT member struck the man's head with the butt of his rifle, rendering him motionless. The rest of the team rushed in, restraining their colleague before further harm could be inflicted. The events unfolded before my eyes, leaving me and my partner frozen in disbelief for several critical moments. What could trigger such an outburst from a seasoned soldier, someone trained to handle the most challenging situations? It was then that the reality I had been avoiding crashed upon me, shattering the fragile barrier of denial. A putrid stench that had initially assaulted my senses was unmistakably the smell of infant fecal matter. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks, intensifying the unease coursing through my veins. My partner called for backup, jolting me back to my duty, but my mind fixated on the scene unfolding before us. Surrounding us were cribs, 6 in total, lined up against the grimy walls of the cramped basement. Horror gripped my heart as my gaze fell upon the pitiful occupants within them. Children, ranging from infants to toddlers, each in a state of profound distress, covered in their own excrement. Their cries had gone unheard amidst the cacophony of the raid, as each one was gagged by tightly secured pacifiers, the cords cutting into their tender flesh. Some were even bound with bungee cords, further tormenting their vulnerable bodies. At that moment, the world seemed to spin, and a lightheadedness threatened to overcome me. I desperately clung to the hope that this couldn't be real, that my eyes were deceiving me. But my partner's urgent call for assistance snapped me out of my daze. Forgetful of my duty, I focused on a single purpose, to alleviate the suffering of the infant before me. I cradled the helpless child in my arms, tenderly removing the pacifier that had silenced their cries, allowing their anguish to be heard at last. As my partner and I stood there, consumed by the horrifying sight, more officers rushed down the stairs, bearing witness to the unspeakable tragedy unfolding in that wretched basement. The investigation that followed revealed that the drug-addicted squatters had transformed this house into a twisted, grotesquely neglectful daycare center for their unwanted offspring, a means to indulge their vices without interruption. Every child discovered was placed into the foster care system, their fates forever unknown to us. Yet we, the officers who bore witness to this abomination, carry the burden of wondering about their destinies each day since that fateful raid. It haunts our thoughts, a constant reminder of the depths of depravity that humanity can sink to. And as I pen down this account, I know that the scars of that day will never fade from my soul, forever etching the horrors I witnessed into the fabric of my being. During the lockdown, my life seemed to be going well. I had recently started dating my girlfriend, and with everything closed, we had plenty of time to spend together. We were both 18, nearing the end of our senior year in high school, and had few responsibilities. We would drive around town, enjoying the quiet streets and each other's company. We found secluded spots to park my car and be hidden from prying eyes. It was a perfect escape. But one night, everything came crashing down. We parked in the rear lot of a park near our school, thinking no one would see us in the darkness. Little did we know that our friends, angry that my girlfriend wasn't partying with them, had called the cops on us, falsely claiming I was a drug dealer. Unaware of this, we smoked a joint and drank under the cover of darkness. As we returned to my car and began getting intimate in the backseat, my peripheral vision caught sight of 3 cops silently pulling into the parking lot. Before we could react, they surrounded the car, trapping us inside. Panicked, we hurriedly put our clothes back on, but it was too late. The cops banged on the doors, shining their flashlights through the windows, exposing us in our vulnerable state. We were ordered to get out of the car while still half naked. Fear and confusion clouded our minds, so we complied. The moment I stepped out, one of the officers violently threw me to the ground and handcuffed me. My girlfriend, in tears and refusing to exit the car, was forcefully pulled out and handcuffed as well. Helpless, we were left on the ground as the officers interrogated us, their flashlights illuminating the scene for all to see. They searched my car, finding the weed and empty bottle. To protect my girlfriend, I claimed ownership, taking the blame for everything. They brutalized me, and even though I was underage, they charged me with a Dewey, revoking my license. On top of that, I was hit with a drug charge. Both of us were charged with trespassing for being in the park after dark. The most devastating blow came when we were charged with indecent exposure and committing a lewd act for having consensual sex in the car. These charges led to convictions that branded us as registered sex offenders for life. It seemed absurd and unjust, and it infuriates me to this day. But there was nothing I could do to change it. I share this story as a reminder that some cops can be unscrupulous, willing to ruin lives over minor offenses. The officer who arrested me took pride in his actions, presenting a mountain of evidence to the judge, painting me as a degenerate. During the court proceedings, he emphasized the open container violation, intoxicated driving, marijuana possession, indecent exposure, trespassing, the anonymous tip, and even resisting arrest. The judge, swayed by the officer's persuasive arguments, sentenced me, an 18-year-old, to 6 months in jail and years of probation. Though my girlfriend avoided jail time since she was a minor, the trauma of the incident led her to end our relationship while I was incarcerated. This experience serves as a reminder to be cautious because cops are always looking for an excuse. Stay safe out there. That experience of being locked up in jail was a nightmare. Every day felt like an eternity, and the weight of the charges and the label of a registered sex offender hung over me like a dark cloud. The reality of my situation began to sink in as I faced the harshness of life behind bars. In jail, I encountered individuals from all walks of life, each with their own stories of how they ended up there. I learned to navigate the complex social dynamics and survive in an environment where trust was scarce. During my time in confinement, I had a lot of time to reflect on the events that led me to this point. I questioned whether I could have done anything differently to avoid such a devastating outcome. The anger and frustration consumed me, but I also found solace in the support of fellow inmates who understood the injustices of the system. While in jail, I made a promise to myself that I would not let this experience define me. I was determined to turn my life around and prove that I was more than the mistakes I had made. I sought out educational opportunities and participated in counseling programs to address the underlying issues that had contributed to my choices. After serving my sentence, I was released, but the challenges were far from over. As a registered sex offender, I faced numerous restrictions and societal stigma. Finding employment was nearly impossible, and even finding a place to live became a daunting task. The consequences of that one fateful night seemed to follow me wherever I went, but I refused to let despair consume me. I connected with support groups for individuals in similar situations, and together we fought for reform and greater understanding of the complexities surrounding sex offender registries. I became an advocate, sharing my story to raise awareness about the consequences of over-policing and the need for fair justice systems. Slowly, I began to rebuild my life. I enrolled in college, determined to pursue a career where I could make a positive impact. I studied law, hoping to become a criminal justice reform advocate and work towards creating a more equitable system. It was my way of seeking justice for myself and others who had been unjustly affected. Over the years, I met others who had also faced the challenges of being labeled as sex offenders. We formed a tight-knit community, supporting each other through the hardships and celebrating the victories. Together, we pushed for legislative changes, rehabilitation programs, and support networks to help individuals reintegrate into society after their sentences were served. Although my path forward was filled with obstacles, I never lost sight of the person I wanted to become. I wanted to be an example of resilience and transformation, showing that mistakes should not define a person's entire life. It was a long and arduous journey, but I was determined to overcome the hardships and make a positive impact in the world. As time went on, the scars from that traumatic experience began to heal, and I learned to forgive myself for the mistakes I had made. I focused on personal growth, building healthier relationships, and fostering a sense of community. I channeled my energy into helping others who had experienced similar struggles, providing support and advocating for their rights. Though the weight of the past still lingered, I found hope in the progress I had made in the lives I had touched along the way. The road to redemption was long, but I had come to realize that true strength lies in the ability to rise above adversity and use it as fuel for positive change. So, I share my story as a cautionary tale, a reminder that one night of youthful indiscretion can have far-reaching consequences. But I also share it as a message of resilience and the power of personal growth. We are more than our worst mistakes, and it is never too late to turn our lives around and strive for a better future. While the scars of the past may always remain, they serve as a constant reminder of the lessons learned and the strength gained from overcoming adversity. In my journey of redemption, I became involved in community outreach programs, offering support to at-risk youth and educating them about the consequences of their actions. I shared my story openly, not to glorify the mistakes I had made, but to emphasize the importance of making responsible choices and understanding the potential long-term ramifications. Through speaking engagements and mentorship, I aim to inspire others to break the cycle of destructive behavior and find healthier outlets for their emotions and desires. By sharing my experiences, I hope to create a dialogue that challenged societal prejudices and encouraged empathy and understanding. In time, I began to rebuild trust with my family and friends. It was a slow and gradual process, but their support and belief in my transformation were instrumental in my healing. They saw the remorse and determination in my eyes and recognized the person I was striving to become. While the road to redemption was fraught with setbacks and challenges, I remained committed to my purpose. I engaged with legal experts and organizations advocating for criminal justice reform, hoping to shed light on the flaws in the system and promote more compassionate approaches to rehabilitation and reintegration. I sought to address the misconceptions surrounding sex offender registries and work towards policies that prioritize risk assessment and individualized treatment plans over blanket categorizations. By doing so, I aim to protect society while still offering opportunities for redemption and personal growth. Throughout my journey, I encountered individuals who were resistant to change, blinded by the stigma associated with sex offenses. But I persevered, driven by the belief that everyone deserves a second chance and the opportunity to rebuild their lives. I became a voice for those who were silenced, advocating for the recognition of their humanity and potential for rehabilitation. Over time, the tides began to shift. Society started to recognize that punitive measures alone were not effective in preventing recidivism and fostering true rehabilitation. Calls for reform grew louder, and the need for more compassionate, evidence-based approaches gained traction. I actively participated in legislative discussions, sharing my first-hand experiences and insights to shape policies that balance public safety with the principles of fairness and restorative justice. I collaborated with lawmakers, psychologists, and experts in the field to develop comprehensive strategies that focused on rehabilitation, reintegration, and community support. As the years went by, I witnessed the gradual transformation of the justice system. There was a growing recognition of the importance of rehabilitation and providing individuals with the tools they needed to successfully reintegrate into society. Programs were established to address the underlying issues that led to criminal behavior, such as addiction, trauma, and mental health disorders. While I acknowledge the progress made, I remain vigilant in my advocacy. I understand that the journey towards a more compassionate and equitable justice system is ongoing, and I continue to lend my voice to those who have been marginalized by society's prejudices. In the end, my story is not just about the horrors and injustices I faced. It is a testament to the power of resilience, redemption, and the unwavering human spirit. It is a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope for change and growth. So, to anyone who finds themselves facing the consequences of their actions, I implore you to hold on to that flicker of hope. Embrace the opportunity for self-reflection, personal growth, and making amends. Know that your mistakes do not define you. And with determination and a supportive community, you can reclaim your life and contribute positively to the world. In sharing my extended story, I hope to inspire others to believe in the power of redemption, to challenge societal biases, and to work towards a justice system that values compassion, rehabilitation, and second chances. It is my hope that by sharing the depths of my journey, others will understand the complexities of human experiences and the importance of empathy in our interactions with one another. Beyond my personal advocacy, I also found solace in artistic expression. Writing became a cathartic outlet, allowing me to explore the depths of my emotions and share my insights with others. I delved into the world of storytelling, using fiction to shed light on the societal issues and struggles faced by those who have been entangled in the criminal justice system. Through my writing, I aim to challenge preconceived notions and humanize the stories behind the labels. I wanted to create characters that resonated with readers, evoking compassion and empathy. By sharing these narratives, I hope to foster a deeper understanding of the human capacity for growth, redemption, and forgiveness. As the years passed, I saw the impact of my efforts. The conversations around criminal justice reform grew louder, reaching not only the ears of lawmakers, but also permeating through various spheres of society. It became evident that change was on the horizon, albeit gradual. Reforms were implemented, focusing on a more comprehensive approach to rehabilitation. The justice system began to shift from punitive measures towards a greater emphasis on restorative justice, offering opportunities for healing, accountability, and community integration. The societal perception of individuals with criminal backgrounds evolved, recognizing that rehabilitation is a crucial component in reducing recidivism rates and creating safer communities. I continue to engage with organizations dedicated to criminal justice reform, collaborating with experts and activists who shared the vision of a more equitable and compassionate system. Together, we pushed for policy changes, invested in education and reentry programs, and fought to dismantle the barriers that hindered successful reintegration. While the road to redemption is long and arduous, my journey serves as a testament to the power of resilience, determination, and the belief in one's capacity for change. I emerged from the depths of despair, transformed not only by my personal growth but also by the collective efforts of those who stood by my side. Today, I stand as a beacon of hope, working tirelessly to create a society that embraces the principles of restorative justice and second chances. My experiences have fueled my passion to advocate for a more compassionate and effective criminal justice system, one that seeks to address the root causes of crime rather than perpetuate cycles of punishment. Through sharing my extended story, I hope to inspire others to challenge the status quo, to question societal norms, and to advocate for fairness, empathy, and understanding. I want individuals who have been impacted by the criminal justice system to know that they are not defined by their past, but rather by the choices they make in shaping their future. Ultimately, my journey serves as a reminder that even in the face of adversity, there is always the potential for transformation and growth. It is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of collective action. Let us continue to strive for a more just and compassionate world, where redemption and second chances are not only possible but embraced as fundamental aspects of our humanity. Once upon a time, when we were Boy Scouts back in the day, we would often plan camping trips to explore the great outdoors. These trips had always been filled with adventure and camaraderie, and we had grown accustomed to the joys and challenges of the wilderness. However, little did we know that one particular camping trip would expose us to an entirely different kind of danger that our training had never prepared us for. It was a beautiful summer day when a group of us decided to embark on a camping expedition deep into the woods. Our shared history and friendship gave us confidence that everything would go smoothly, just as it always had. We were well versed in watching out for wild animals, poisonous plants, and venomous spiders. But little did we anticipate that we could encounter something far more sinister even in the heart of nature. Our first unsettling encounter took place in the dense forests of Florida. In early January, 3 of us booked a primitive campsite for a weekend getaway. As we arrived at the campsite, it became apparent that it wasn't as secluded as we had hoped. The site was situated right on a dirt road, a stone's throw away from a rural highway. Numerous campsites dotted the area, some empty and others occupied by fellow campers. The Across the dirt road, another camper caught our attention. He was a peculiar man camping alone out of his Subaru. As we began setting up our camp, we noticed him watching us intently. The sight of a large machete holster to his hip only added to our unease. Throughout the first day, he kept his distance, but we were acutely aware that he was observing us. Our campsite was not far from his, with only about 30 feet separating us. We resigned ourselves to the fact that he would likely eavesdrop on our conversations throughout the night. Thankfully, the first night passed without incident, and on the second day, he unexpectedly started to warm up to us. While one of our buddies and I ventured into the shrubs to gather firewood, he approached us and offered suggestions on finding better materials that weren't rotted. Despite his suspicious demeanor and nervous fidgeting, we appreciated his attempt to be helpful. However, we couldn't ignore the fact that he seemed uncomfortable around people, as if he had never quite adjusted to social interactions. As the day progressed, an unforeseen turn of events unfolded before our eyes. Cars started rolling into the campsite next to the machete-wielding man, one after another. The campsites quickly filled up with a large group of millennial city dwellers who had booked 3 adjacent sites. Unbeknownst to them, they had unwittingly encroached upon the personal space of the enigmatic hermit. We watched as the machete man's eyes burned with anger and frustration. He clearly despised the intrusion but attempted to maintain a semblance of normalcy. However, his body tensed and his gaze turned into a death glare directed at the newcomers. The tension escalated when one of their dogs, let off the leash, bounded over to the hermit's campsite, showering him with excited jumps. To our astonishment, the machete man barked back at the dog, freezing in place as if restraining himself from taking drastic action. The dog's owner rushed over and restrained their pet, averting a potentially dangerous situation. However, what followed was even more alarming. The hermit muttered under his breath, expressing his intention to shoot the dog if it ventured near him again. Surprisingly, the city dwellers seemed unfazed by his threats. They kept their dog on a leash for the rest of the evening. However, as night fell, their intrusive behavior escalated. Their incessant barking, simultaneous conversations, and constant shouting created a chaotic atmosphere that infiltrated the serenity of the woods. We huddled around our dwindling fire, unable to escape the barrage of noise and the absurdity of their conversations. In hushed tones, we found solace in mocking their out-of-touch remarks and imitating their most obnoxious member. With each exaggerated imitation, we tried to find humor in the situation, momentarily forgetting the discomfort caused by their presence. As the fire died down and the temperature plummeted, we finally decided to retreat to our hammocks for some much-needed rest. I awoke at daybreak, my body stiff from the cold. Peeking through half-closed eyes, I noticed my friend crouched near the fire pit, desperately coaxing the coals to ignite. Lacking the motivation to get up until the fire was roaring, I shut my eyes once more, intending to drift back to sleep. However, the tranquility of the morning was shattered by the sound of voices. My eyes shot open, and I realized that one of the voices belonged to the machete man. He stood over my friend, his hand casually resting on the hilt of his weapon, a familiar stance we had grown accustomed to during his solitary camping. I feigned sleep, my heart pounding in my chest, straining to catch snippets of their conversation from the safety of my hammock. The machete man's voice cut through the morning air, his tone both curious and accusing. "Which one of you is doing that dumb bass voice?" he asked. Caught off guard, my friend stammered before reluctantly admitting his guilt. A momentary silence hung in the air, and I held my breath, half expecting the man to unleash his machete in anger. However, to our immense relief, he let out an awkward laugh. "Man," he exclaimed, "you guys had me rolling in my tent last night." A wave of relief washed over my friend, and he managed a weak smile. "Yeah, that's cool, man. We thought it was pretty funny," he replied, grateful for the unexpected turn of events. The machete man leaned in, his voice lowered to a whisper as if sharing a secret. "I'm serious, guys. I was this close," he said, his words tinged with a mixture of gratitude and tension. Confused, my friend inquired, "Close to what?" The hermit's voice dropped even lower, his words laced with a hint of menace. "If you guys hadn't got me laughing like that last night, I was about 10 seconds away from going over there with a 9mm and making them shut up." The weight of his words hung heavily in the air, leaving us stunned and speechless. Struggling to find a response, my friend remained silent, allowing the man to continue speaking. The hermit expressed his disdain for city dwellers infiltrating their peaceful retreat. His bitterness focused on those from Orlando. Attempting to deflect suspicion, my friend quickly interjected. No, we're not from Orlando. We're from the Gainesville area." "Ah, that's not too bad," the hermit responded, his tone softening slightly. "Well, anyway, I'm gonna go back and try to get them to leave. See y'all later." With those words, he turned and walked back to his campsite, leaving us in a state of disbelief. As soon as he was out of earshot, my friend turned to me, his wide eyes mirroring my own. "Did you hear that?" I nodded, my voice barely a whisper. "Yeah, man, good thing we're leaving today, right?" We exchanged a glance filled with a mix of relief and unease, realizing the potential danger we had unknowingly been exposed to. It was a chilling reminder that our assumptions about the hermit had been far from accurate. Our other friend, oblivious to the conversation that had just unfolded, emerged from his hammock, rubbing his eyes and stretching his limbs, sensing the gravity of the situation. We filled him in, recounting the events of the early morning encounter. As the reality sank in, we unanimously agreed to cut our camping trip short, packing up our belongings and preparing to depart before 10 o'clock. We tried to brush it off as a joke, attempting to lighten the heavy atmosphere that hung over us. But deep down, the words lingered, leaving a lingering sense of unease. What if we get home, someone mused, and we see on the news that some guy shot up a whole campsite full of people from Orlando? Though said in jest, the underlying fear was palpable. Thankfully, news of such a tragic event never reached our ears, and we returned home safely. What might have transpired if we hadn't brought a sense of humor to the situation? It was a question that lingered, a reminder of the unpredictability of human encounters in the wilderness. Over the years, we would continue our camping adventures, only to find ourselves stumbling upon enigmatic individuals lurking in the deep woods. Each encounter left an indelible mark on our memories, blurring the line between curiosity and trepidation. We encountered hermits who were reclusive yet harmless, content with their solitary existence amidst nature's embrace. Others exuded an air of unpredictability, their strange behaviors and chilling stares fueling our imagination with unsettling possibilities. These encounters served as a constant reminder that the wilderness held more mysteries than we could ever fathom. Despite the occasional unnerving experiences, we remained drawn to the allure of the great outdoors, its untamed beauty and the camaraderie it fostered among us. We developed a keen sense of vigilance, always mindful of the potential encounters that awaited us beyond the familiar trails and campsites. In the end, our encounters with woodland hermits served as a haunting reminder that even amidst the beauty of nature, there exist hidden pockets of the unknown. It reinforced the importance of preparation, trust in our instincts, and the bond of friendship that held us together during uncertain times. As we ventured into the wilderness, our hearts filled with equal parts excitement and trepidation. We embraced the enigmatic nature of the woods, ready to face whatever mysteries awaited us, be it the wonders of nature or the peculiar encounters with the reclusive inhabitants of the deep woods. The second time I found myself unexpectedly encountering a person in the woods, the situation took a far more unsettling turn. It was during another camping trip with my two friends from before, but this time we had an additional companion, a good friend who wasn't a former Boy Scout like us. Our camp out was much more serious and adventurous this time. We embarked on a journey to South Carolina, planning to spend 4 nights in the wilderness. We had managed to secure a secluded campsite for ourselves, deep within the untamed landscape. To reach our destination, we had to drive down a dirt road for several miles until we reached a loop where we parked our cars. From there, we hiked downhill to our campsite, nestled on the upper banks of a river. The exact time of year escapes my memory, but I do recall that it was hot and dry. The river's water level was low, reaching only ankle deep in most places with occasional steep basins. The vegetation around us was diverse, and the terrain was ruggedly mountainous, creating an otherworldly atmosphere that intrigued us and heightened our sense of adventure. Equipped with fishing gear, we had plans to explore the river and engage in group fishing activities. However, as a novice angler, I found myself struggling to catch anything worthwhile, while my friends seemed to have better luck. Despite my lack of success, we were all enjoying the trip, immersing ourselves in the beauty of nature. But as the second or third day arrived, tensions began to simmer among us, and the close quarters started to wear on our patience. It was at this point that someone proposed an idea to venture across the state line to North Carolina, which was nearby, to visit a place called Sliding Rock. Although the suggestion didn't particularly excite me, the rest of the group was enthusiastic about the adventure. Here's where we made a significant mistake. In Boy Scouts, we were taught about the buddy system, a vital rule to follow whenever venturing into the wilderness. The principle emphasized the importance of never going out alone, always ensuring that at least one person accompanied you in case of any trouble. However, given that we had not encountered any real danger in the first 48 hours, we made the ill-advised decision for the 3 of them to go on the half-day trip while I stayed behind to watch over the campsite. I am aware that it was neither safe nor smart, especially considering my dying phone battery. However, as they left, they entrusted me with the keys to the other car in case I needed assistance. Surprisingly, the solitude I experienced during their absence turned out to be quite relaxing. I prepared a simple lunch of cheesy grits over the fire, indulged in some reading, and later washed the pot in the river near our campsite. With a newfound sense of peace, I cast my fishing line into the water, hoping for a stroke of luck. To my astonishment, my luck did change. A little catfish, lured by the scent of my grits, became my first ever catch. Filled with excitement, I snapped a photo of the fish and sent it to my friends, proud of my accomplishment. Feeling a surge of fortune, I released the catfish back into the water and ventured further down the river, hoping to catch another fish. After hiking about a quarter mile and casting off near some rapids, I successfully caught a baby smallmouth bass. It seemed that everyone was catching smaller fish due to the shallow water. After releasing the smallmouth bass, I decided to take a moment of rest. I perched on a rock amidst the gentle rapids, allowing the scenery to captivate me. However, as I basked in the serenity of the surroundings and let my guard down, a sudden chill ran down my spine. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, alerting me to a presence that sent a shiver through my entire body. Instinctively, I stood up, scanning the area for any signs of movement. To my dismay, I didn't spot anything unusual, but when I glanced down at myself, I made a chilling discovery. My legs and groin were covered in dozens of tiny leeches. Panic coursed through my veins as I frantically picked them off, one by one. It was a disturbing sight, and I couldn't help but feel a growing unease about my safety in this unfamiliar territory. Feeling shaken but determined to return to the safety of our campsite, I hastily made my way back. In my haste, I misjudged my landing and landed my bare right foot on a small cypress knee, resulting in a painful bruise. The incident served as a stark reminder that I had ventured too far from my comfort zone and needed to exercise greater caution. Upon my return to the camp, I couldn't shake off the sense of vulnerability that had enveloped me. Worried about lingering leeches, I decided to strip down completely and use the only mirror we had at camp to inspect myself more thoroughly. It was a humbling experience, examining my own body for any remnants of those parasitic creatures. Once satisfied that I was leech-free, I dressed and settled into my hammock with a cold beer and a cigarette, eagerly awaiting the return of my friends. After what felt like an eternity, my friends finally arrived back at the campsite. Eagerly, we shared our separate experiences, recounting the adventures we had embarked on. However, our joyous reunion was short-lived as they relayed an encounter that had taken place in my absence. They spoke of a man named Bo, who had appeared in the river near our campsite. Dressed like a true mountain man, he carried himself with an air of authority, claiming ownership of the entire mountainous region. In an oddly gracious manner, he had allowed us to stay with his permission as long as we remained respectful of his domain. My heart sank as my friends revealed that Bo had specifically mentioned seeing me in the river earlier and had intended to approach me before I hurriedly retreated. It became clear that he had been watching us, perhaps even observing me in my vulnerable state. The whole atmosphere of his arrival seemed suspicious and sent a wave of discomfort through our group. Bo's demeanor was unsettling, his speech almost unintelligible due to his lack of teeth. He seemed delusional, unpredictable, and undoubtedly armed. My friends had been on edge, sensing his slow, cautious approach toward our camp until the rest of us returned and he backed off. It was a red flag that suggested he might not have had the best intentions in mind. Eventually, through careful negotiation and persuasion, we managed to convince Bo to leave our campsite. However, the unease lingered within us. We couldn't shake the feeling that he might still be lurking in the mountains, watching our every move. From that point on, we implemented a strict night watch schedule, taking turns to keep guard, ensuring our safety in case Bo decided to return. Fortunately, Bo never reappeared during our remaining time in the wilderness. However, the haunting shrieks of owls that pierced the night air served as a constant reminder of the eerie encounter we had faced. Each screech seemed to send chills down our spines, a chilling symphony that echoed through the vast, isolated landscape. As we packed up our camp and prepared to leave, a mixture of relief and caution consumed us. We exchanged glances, silently acknowledging that our encounter with Bo had been a stark reminder of the potential dangers that lurked in the untamed wilderness. It was a humbling experience that taught us the importance of vigilance and preparedness, even in seemingly serene surroundings. With our belongings stowed away and the campsite left pristine, we bid farewell to the secluded haven that had both enchanted and unsettled us, as we embarked on the journey back to civilization. We couldn't help but reflect on the series of events that had unfolded during our ill-fated camping trip. The incident with Bo served as a sobering reminder that nature, while captivating, could also conceal hidden threats. We vowed to carry the lessons learned from this encounter into our future adventures, always prioritizing safety and sticking together as a team. The buddy system that we had learned in our scouting days would never be forgotten again. Months passed, and the memory of that eerie encounter began to fade into the background of our lives. We resumed our routines, balancing work, socializing, and occasional outdoor excursions. But there was always a lingering sense of caution and newfound respect for the unpredictable nature of the wilderness. As time went on, we shared our story with others, cautioning them about the importance of being aware of their surroundings and staying prepared for the unexpected. Our experience became a cautionary tale, reminding others that venturing into the great outdoors required both a sense of adventure and a healthy dose of caution. The woods no longer held the same innocence for us. While we continued to seek solace in nature's embrace, we did so with a newfound wariness, understanding that beneath its beauty lay a world of untamed mystery and potential dangers. Our encounter with Bo had left an indelible mark on our lives, the reminder that even in the tranquil depths of the wilderness, there existed a delicate balance between serenity and peril. We had emerged from that experience with a deeper appreciation for the importance of unity, vigilance, and respect for the natural world. And so, armed with the lessons learned from that harrowing encounter, we continued to explore, forever mindful of the untamed mysteries that awaited us in the heart of the woods. Each step forward was accompanied by a mix of excitement and caution, knowing that the second time we encountered a person unexpectedly in the woods could have gone much worse, but it had also served as a catalyst for our growth and understanding of the untamed world around us. I had taken a break from camping for a couple of years, but recently I decided it was time for my first trip in a while. This time, there were 4 of us going, including some friends who had accompanied me on previous camping adventures. One of my friends brought along their new fiancée, adding a touch of excitement and novelty to the trip. I had booked a campsite that used to be familiar to me, but during my absence, it had undergone a surprising transformation. The once familiar landscape had transformed into a lush and vibrant haven. The trees stood tall and healthy, the shrubs grew thicker, and the foliage was more colorful and abundant than ever before. It seemed that nature had taken full advantage of the temporary human absence during the lockdown, reclaiming its territory with vigor. However, to my dismay, my fellow campers were not as appreciative of this natural reclamation. In the past, we had all been on the same page about respecting the wilderness, but this time their behavior took a different turn. Perhaps the past few years had taken a toll on them, and they sought an escape and a chance to let loose. Unfortunately, they seemed to forget the fundamental rule of being a guest in nature's domain. They snapped branches off trees, claiming they were in the way. Excessive drinking and discarding empty beer cans into the woods became the norm. They even played recklessly with fire, spreading hot coals from the fire pit across the campsite, extinguishing them just moments before they spiraled out of control. Every possible rule was broken without a second thought. I grew increasingly upset and frustrated with their behavior. I told them to stop, to cut it out, but my pleas fell on deaf ears. Instead, they handed me a beer, told me to chill, and dismissed my concerns. Trying to salvage what I could of the trip, I attempted to enjoy myself. However, as the evening wore on, my restlessness grew. Despite not being physically tired, a sense of unease settled over me, casting a shadow on my mood. While everyone else remained around the crackling fire, their voices growing louder and more obnoxious, I decided to turn in early. Inside my tent, surrounded by the distant sound of laughter and boisterous conversation, I found it difficult to relax. The time slipped away, but the noise continued, invading my thoughts and fueling my frustration. As the others finally called it a night, the forest seemed to exhale in relief as their voices ceased. I lay there, listening to the symphony of insects and rustling leaves, unable to find peace. Eventually, unable to ignore nature's call, I decided to venture outside for one last trip to relieve myself. Crawling out of my tent, I walked toward the tree line surrounding the campsite. The darkness of the woods beckoned, and my gaze wandered into its depths. Above, the crescent moon peeked through the canopy, casting eerie shadows, while ahead, the forest loomed, shrouded in mystery. Then I saw them, 2 eyes staring straight at me from the darkness. They seemed to glow, almost translucent in the moonlight. Startled, I jumped back and instinctively shielded myself, averting my gaze for a split second. When I mustered the courage to look again, the eyes had moved closer, revealing a hint of detail. To my astonishment, I recognized the figure before me. It was my friend's fiancée, or at least it appeared to be. She stood there in the open, wearing the same clothes as earlier, looking perfectly normal except for her eyes. The eyes that met mine were devoid of their usual reflective whites, replaced by an unsettling emptiness. What unnerved me further was the way she stood, as if suspended by invisible strings, her body unnaturally still. I called out her name, my voice laced with concern and confusion. "Haley, what are you doing?" I asked, hoping for a logical explanation, a simple reassurance that everything was alright. There was a brief pause, and then, to my shock, she spoke. But it wasn't her voice that reached my ears, it was my own. The words she uttered echoed my earlier question, mimicking my tone perfectly. "What are you doing?" she repeated, using my voice. A shiver ran down my spine, and a surge of fear coursed through me. I took a step back, and in response, she moved forward, mirroring my every movement with an eerie precision. I tried to squint, to discern any signs of illness or distress, desperately hoping for a rational explanation. But all I could see was a haunting resemblance to Haley, coupled with an inexplicable wrongness that sent chills down my spine. Feeling unease gnaw at my gut, I took another step backward, my eyes fixed on her, trying to make sense of the unsettling situation. It occurred to me that perhaps she was unwell, or maybe something had taken hold of her. It was a feeble hope, a way to explain the inexplicable. "Haley, it's late," I implored, my voice trembling. "You shouldn't be out of your tent like this. Are you feeling alright? Do you need help?" Once again, she responded in my voice, her words carrying an unsettling mimicry of my concern. "You shouldn't be out of your tent like this. Chill." A chill ran down my spine, and the realization began to sink in. Whatever I was facing was far beyond my comprehension or ability to handle alone. Fear coursed through my veins, urging me to seek safety within the confines of our campsite. With cautious steps, I retreated toward the tents, never taking my eyes off Haley as she continued to mirror my every movement, gliding through the air like a marionette. Arriving at my friend's tent, panic gripped me, and I urgently began rapping on the canvas, calling out for Stephen, Haley's fiancé, to wake up. Stephen, get up. We need to help Haley. Come on, man, get your ass up. A flap unzipped, and Stephen's confused and annoyed face emerged. What are you talking about, man? He groaned. Haley's fine. She's right here. Stephen pulled back the tent flap, revealing Haley still nestled in her sleeping bag, just beginning to stir from the commotion. Disbelief washed over me as I peered inside the tent, my mind struggling to reconcile the image before me with the eerie doppelganger I had encountered in the woods moments ago. What the hell? I muttered, dumbfounded, but I swear she was just out there. Turning around, I shined my flashlight back toward the spot where I had seen Haley, but there was nothing, no trace of her or any other presence. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. My confusion and fear intensified, but my friends, unable to comprehend the gravity of the situation, dismissed it as a hallucination born from exhaustion or imagination. Their skepticism stunned, and tensions grew during the silent car ride back home. None of them took me seriously, and I couldn't shake the lingering sense of dread that clung to me. Haunted by the encounter and the unanswered questions it raised, I embarked on a quest for answers. Determined to make sense of the inexplicable, I delved into extensive research, scouring books, online forums, and local legends, hoping to uncover any similar accounts or clues that could shed light on what had transpired in those dark woods. As I immersed myself in the world of folklore and paranormal phenomena, I stumbled upon stories and myths that echoed fragments of my own experience. Tales of doppelgangers, shapeshifters, and otherworldly entities crossed my path, painting a picture of a hidden realm intertwined with our own. One particular legend caught my attention, a tale passed down by the indigenous people who once inhabited these lands. It spoke of a malevolent spirit known as the forest mimic, a deceptive entity that preyed on unsuspecting travelers. It was said to have the ability to mimic human forms, assuming their appearance and voices with chilling accuracy. The purpose of its mimicry remained unknown, but encounters with this creature were believed to be harbingers of misfortune and tragedy. The more I delved into this legend, the more it resonated with my encounter. The bone-chilling gaze, the mimicry of my voice, everything aligned with the traits ascribed to the forest mimic. Could it be that this ancient spirit had crossed paths with me and my friends during our ill-fated camping trip? Armed with newfound knowledge and a burning desire for answers, I reached out to local experts in folklore and the occult. I sought their guidance and shared the details of my experience, hoping to find someone who could validate my account and provide further insights. To my surprise, I received responses from a few individuals who acknowledged the existence of such entities and the potential dangers they posed. They warned me of the forest mimic's elusive nature and its uncanny ability to manipulate and deceive. Their advice was unanimous. Avoidance was key. To engage with such entities was to invite peril, as their motives and intentions remained enigmatic. Haunted by the encounter and plagued by a sense of guilt for bringing my friends into harm's way, I made the difficult decision to distance myself from them. The bond that once united us now seemed frayed and irreparable. Their skepticism and refusal to acknowledge the danger we had faced only fueled my determination to protect them from the lurking malevolence of the forest mimic. In the months that followed, I dedicated myself to spreading awareness about the ancient legends and warning others of the hidden dangers that awaited within the depths of the wilderness. I conducted interviews, wrote articles, and gave presentations, hoping to prevent anyone else from falling victim to the same fate. As time passed, my efforts bore fruit as more people came forward with their own encounters and shared their stories. Together, we formed a network of individuals who had glimpsed the eerie nature of the forest mimic and other supernatural beings that dwelt in the shadowy corners of the natural world. Though my fascination with camping had waned, my newfound purpose propelled me forward. I became a voice for those who had encountered the inexplicable, shedding light on the mysteries that lay hidden in the depths of the woods. In the process, I found solace in knowing that my experience had not been in vain, that my journey had transformed into something greater, a mission to protect others and uncover the truth. And so, I continue my crusade, a vigilant guardian against the unknown, forever seeking answers and safeguarding those who venture into the wilderness, never forgetting the unsettling gaze of those deadly white eyes that forever haunt my memories.